like to bring this meeting to order. Welcome, everyone. I'm sitting in for the real mayor. He's babysitting in Utah or something. That's what old mayors do, right? You know. Anyway, I'd like to move it to call roll call, please.
Amen.
Thanks, Don. Thanks. Mr. English, would you read the pledge for us?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Dan. Yep. Any need for amendment changes? Hearing none, moving on to presentations. Christy, would you do Bike of the Month?
Yes,
Proclamation,
Mr. Mayor, I'd
please.
be happy to. Whereas, for more than a century, the bicycle has provided an independent form of transportation for many Americans, and whereas more than 100 million Americans engage in bicycling today for fun, fitness, sports, recreation, and transportation, and whereas the use of bicycles for transportation and recreation benefits all citizens of Coeur d'Alene, and whereas the City of Coeur d'Alene has worked steadily to encourage bicycling as a healthy mode of transportation and recreation, and whereas each year the City of Coeur d'Alene and the League of American Bicyclists recognize National Bike Month and promote bicycling events like Bike to Work Week, and now therefore, I'm going to say James Hammond, but I'm not Jim Hammond, Mayor of the City of Coeur d'Alene, Idaho, do hereby proclaim the month of May 2024 as Bike Month in Coeur d'Alene and encourage all citizens to ride their bikes to work during Bike to Work Week, May 13th through May 19th, 2024. In witness whereof, I have hereto set my hand and advised the Great Seal of Coeur d'Alene to be effective the 7th day of May, 2024.
And Mike Wood from the Fed Bike Committee's here to accept the proclamation.
I am Mike, but I'm Mike Fuller. I'm co-chair of the Bike Ped Committee, so I appreciate that. Thank you, Christy. Yeah, just a couple. Our mayor has, again, chosen to ride with us on the 17th, which is Friday morning, from Starbucks on Niter and to City Hall. So we encourage any and every one of the council members and the public to join us for a chance to ride with Mr. Hammond. And we appreciate the support for our biking community. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Mike. We appreciate it. Well, before I go further, the demolition discussion we were going to have tonight, Mr. Gookin was kind of behind that and was going to bring it forward. So we're going to kick that down the road until he's back. He's not feeling well, so he's not here tonight. So if you were here for that demolition discussion, we're going to postpone it, hopefully our next meeting. Moving on, proclamation. This is for the Croc Center. Amy.
Whereas the Croc Center in the city of Coeur d'Alene has become a vibrant hub for community engagement, health, and wellness, and whereas the Croc Center has provided countless opportunities for the individuals and families to grow, learn, and thrive through its diverse programs, services, and facilities, and whereas the Croc Center has demonstrated an unwavering commitment to fostering inclusivity, compassion, and a sense of belonging among all members of our community, and whereas the Croc Center has played a significant role in enhancing the quality of life in the city of Coeur d'Alene by promoting physical, mental, and spiritual well-being, and whereas the Croc Center has served as a beacon of hope and inspiration, enriching the lives of residents and contributing to the overall vitality of our city. Now, therefore, on behalf of James Hammond, Mayor of the city of Coeur d'Alene, Idaho, do hereby proclaim May 9th, 2024 as Croc Center Day. In recognition of the invaluable contributions and positive impact of the Croc Center on our community over the past 15 years, I urge all residents to join me in celebrating this occasion and expressing gratitude for the Croc Center's dedication to making Coeur d'Alene a better place for all.
And accepting that is Major Don, who's the Croc Center Corporate Office and CEO. That's twice up, Don. Thank you for coming out.
Thank you.
The real one.
Be the real one.
On behalf of the Croc Center, I'd like to say thank you for recognizing our 15 years. When we started, we never knew what would really happen. And it's been a miracle what has happened. The cooperation between the Crocs who gave the funds, the Salvation Army who administer them, and the city of Coeur d'Alene, and the citizens of Kootenai County who come by the thousands every day to the Croc Center. It's been a great partnership, and we look forward to it continuing. Thanks for the recognition.
Thank you.
Mr.
Brings
Mayor?
back some memories of the big hole. It was a pit, and we filled it in, and it was just quite a project, as I recall.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
I have a comment before we move on to the next item, and it was based on your last notice of pulling the moratorium discussion. I just wanted to mention, I had talked to some folks earlier from the Historic Preservation Commission, and they had wanted to make a public comment about that topic. So I would invite them to either make the public comment at this time, but invite them to come back when the actual discussion's on the agenda, either or, both, whichever you want to do. So I'll let you decide, and but please know that you're invited to make any comments regarding the historic preservation position at both meetings.
Perfect, perfect. Well, speaking of comments, it's Preservation Month. Kiki, take it away.
That's so neat. We got to share in this. Look at it. It's like we planned it or something. That's just fabulous. So it is. So whereas historic preservation is an essential tool for managing growth and sustainable development, realizing neighborhoods, positively impacting the local economy, fostering local pride, and maintaining community character while enhancing livability, and whereas historic preservation is relevant for communities across the nation, both urban and rural, and Americans of all ages, all walks of life, and all ethnic backgrounds. And whereas it is important to celebrate the role of history in our lives and the contributions made by dedicated individuals in helping to preserve the tangible aspects of the heritage that has shaped us as people, including the original inhabitants and protectors of Coeur d'Alene, the Coeur d'Alene tribe. And whereas Coeur d'Alene's Historic Preservation Commission is partnering with the Museum of North Idaho and the Coeur d'Alene Press to do historic preservation outreach and education throughout the month of May, I, therefore, on behalf of James Haven, Mayor of the City of Coeur d'Alene, do hereby proclaim the month of May 2024 as Preservation Month, and set the seal and all those other good things.
And accepting that is Annalisa Miller from the Historic Preservation Commission, Vice Chair. Welcome, Annalise. Thanks for coming.
Yes.
So I think the proclamation said a lot of great things about preservation in our community, and this designation and awareness hopefully brings more insight to the people in our community that preservation is important. I think you are all very supportive of our commission, and especially Kiki's one of our fearless leaders to keep us moving forward. And I would just also like to thank my fellow commissioners who put in a lot of time and effort to do the right thing for our community. So thank you very much.
Annalisa, thanks for all you guys do. All right, the highlight of the evening is public comment. So I have a list here. If you're interested or haven't signed up, if you could whip back there and put your name on there. Oh, Annalise, you're number one. Do you want to speak again?
So again, Annalisa Miller, and I'm representing the Historic Preservation Commission, and we'd like to provide a statement regarding the proposed demolition moratorium. So our commission encourages council to consider and ultimately enact a 6-month moratorium on demolition of properties in the downtown infill boundaries, as well as buildings listed on the National Register of Historic Places. As requested by council, the Historic Preservation Commission is currently reviewing the downtown overlays in order to make recommendations regarding height, parking, and floor area ratio bonuses. We are also working on recommendations to revise existing demolition codes as they apply to older buildings. A moratorium will allow us time to thoughtfully complete these projects without the threat of demolitions in the interim. It is not the intent of our commission to invade, either actually or by impression, any private property rights. We simply seek the opportunity to provide options to property owners before a building is torn down. Recent events have amplified public concern about imminent changes to our city's historic fabric. Several studies have concluded that the loss of historic buildings is detrimental to the mental health of community members. Our community deserves to have its historic buildings identified, evaluated, and hopefully preserved. The Historic Preservation Commission requests that we be given the time to do so. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Annalisa. Kevin Jester. Oh, I haven't seen you in a lot of years, Kevin. That was a compliment, sorry.
It's been a
Welcome.
while, yes. Mayor Pro Tem McEvers and members of the council, I'm here representing the advisory board at the Croc Center, and to thank you for the recognition that you have given the Croc Center for the 15 years that they have been a viable entity in our community. I represent a board of directors, our advisory board at the Croc Center. Currently, it's a large board of 30 members from a cross-section of the community. And we endeavor to make the Croc Center a viable entity in this community. At the beginning of every meeting, we kind of ask 3 questions to remind ourselves of what we're all about. The questions are, what do we do, how do we do it, and why do we do it? And I'm just going to share that with you because this is what the Croc Center is about. We know it as a place, we know it as a building, but there's much more to it than that. We are a volunteer army. This is the advisory board. We are a volunteer army behind the Salvation Army, interpreting the community needs, advocating for different programs, and providing support to the Army's efforts to render effective service. Mind, body, and soul, I think that's important to note. It's not just one or the other. How do we go about doing this? We go about it by attending and participating in committee meetings, by volunteering in support of the programs, and financial support that we give as a board. Why do we do it? The more important thing is to provide a place and programs that can promote the health and well-being of our community. It is a comprehensive effort. As I mentioned before, it's an effort in mind, body, and soul. Right now, I don't know if you're aware of this, right now we're going through a program called Third Grade Swim, where we run 1,800 third graders through swimming lessons at the aquatic center at the Croc Center right now. It's amazing. It's an amazing and chaotic time, but it's wonderful, and it's a program that's been going on for several years. We now reach all of the communities immediately around us. The Croc Center is unique in the fact that it gives back. We don't often come and ask for things, but rather we come and say, what can we do to make this community better? How can we serve? And we pour resources back into the community. So on behalf of the advisory board, I want to share that we feel uniquely blessed to have the Croc Center in our community, and that it is here because of the support of the city, because of the government agencies, and because of the efforts of all of you to see that we are able to sustain it. We will continue to do that to the foreseeable future. So thank you for recognizing us. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Kevin. Appreciate that.
We love the Croc.
And next up is Dave Slover. Dave? Dave's not here? Just kidding, Dave.
Somebody's coming.
I can't help it.
Told you I wasn't shy. I've been to these meetings, but I'm not a fast reader, so bear with me, and I'm going to try to get it all through as
Good.
quick as
Take
I
a
can.
breath. You're okay, Dave.
The reason I'm here, the subject is parking in the downtown CDA, and reason I I was given a citation for parking, stopping, or standing a vehicle in the roadway outside of a business. The citation number is C16000721 with a fine of $46.50. This is approximately 2 hours of pay on a busy night, and on a slower night, it could be a lot more time to get it. When stopped, I said this has been accepted practice for more than 5 years, and I have been working in this area. I have spoken with many of the officers, and they say that as long as I had my four-way flashers on and get out of the flow of traffic the best that I could, that I assumed it was okay. I have done this for nearly 5 years with officers standing on the sidewalk, never had a problem. And then Officer Kopp said that it was a safety issue and the other vehicles had to go around me. He said that the other officers were wrong. They told me just to have my flashers on, he was referring to. I asked him where I could stop, and he said to go in the alley behind the businesses to pick up my passengers. Or on the side of or on a side street. He said the Uber drivers always do this. The passenger in my vehicle said she was from out of state and would not meet in a dark alley. I do believe that it is illegal to park in the alley as well. On the evening that I was cited, I noticed several Uber drivers were pulled over also that night, so he just didn't single me out or pick on me. But I have not seen this kind of aggressive attitude in CDA. Usually, if it hadn't been enforced for a while, we'd have a written warning, and then we'd have a written warning and then more aggressive enforcement if needed. The next part here, I am a disabled person. I'm driving is a job that makes it possible for me to make a living with my limitations. I have 2 artificial hips and a balance issue. I think it's a community service to get people home safely. I support law enforcement always. My son is a police officer, and I have several friends that are officers as well. I have nearly 6,000 rides in this area with a safe record and want to work with the city on this issue. I have suggested a parking zone to my passengers and to officers working in the downtown area, and I have heard only positive feedback. We want the public to take Uber, Lyft, or taxis whenever they want to, conveniently for many reasons. My request is some zones, request a Uber, Lyft, taxi, or a ride-share taxi unloading and loading zone, and in front of the Iron Horse and the Moose Market Lounge. And I have them all detailed on the sheet that I gave to you. I don't want to read it all because I want to respect time. I do appreciate you taking listening to my comments and the consideration before the council. And I just hope that there's some possible way this could be accommodated, because in the future, this city's only growing, so the problem's going to amplify. So
Thanks, Dave.
I thank you for your time. Do you have any questions of me?
Troy, can you get a hold of Dave and work with him on that? Something you might reach out to him?
I can give you my card.
Moving on, Deb Mitchell, please. Deb?
I'm Deb Mitchell, and I'm representing the Kootenai County Advocates for Historic Preservation tonight. At your last meeting, I spoke about the importance of preservation, and I was the one who requested the moratorium on demolition in order for the plan that's being worked out now to be implemented. I'm just going to make a statement. I'll probably make it again before this is all done. But Tom Hayes, who's the president with the National Historic Trust, said, "In a world that is constantly changing, old places provide people with a sense of being part of a continuum that is necessary for them to be psychologically and emotionally healthy. Just two little things I wanted to mention tonight. One is the city of Coeur d'Alene in the last 4 months issued 115 building permits, and in the same period last year issued 128 building permits. I don't know if those are houses or garages, porches. There wasn't time to find out what they were. Your IT people are really busy with other projects right now, as I understand. But that's 115, I think, is a great number. I know just between my house and downtown, I drove by 3 empty lots tonight. So it's happening, and it's happening fast, and we do need to do something before we lose all of the character of our communities. Last week I mentioned the moratorium that Boise had placed on demolition, and I wanted to find out more about what they did, so I got information from them, and I've got a list here I can give to you. I'm not sure whether to give it to Renata, who's not there, or give it to Annalise, or bring it up to Woody. You tell me what I should do with it.
You give it to Joe, it'll get to
Okay.
us that way.
But their demolition permit process is tied into all of the historic codes and overlays. And in order to get a demolition permit, you first have to get a certificate of appropriateness. Not always do you need the certificate of appropriateness. It depends on what you're requesting. For example, if you're building a deck on the back, you don't need a certificate of appropriate. Or if you're putting a driveway, you don't need a certificate of appropriateness. But if it goes into historic areas or units that are on the historic preservation or contribute to the history, there's a possibility for 4 different situations. One would be that whatever the homeowner is wanting, or property owner, I should say, was wanting to do, that could go to a public hearing, or it could just be an administrative discretion, or it could be a same-day approval, depending on the level of it. For example, I'll just be quick here with a couple of them. If it's a construction of a new ADU and it's in a historic zone, yes, it goes to public hearing. But if it's not in a construction, or in a historic zone, then it can go to administrative hearing. Additions not visible from public right-of-way, that can just be an administrative decision. If it's awnings or canopies, that can be a same-day decision. So there wouldn't be any wait period. Driveways and sidewalks, same things, no same-day approval on that. So it's only when it's going to change the character of the building. And I think it's fairly reasonable what they did, and I will just go ahead and give this to Joe.
Appreciate it. Randy, our main attorney, he's probably in this already, right? Digging around? Yeah.
You want it over here, though?
We're going to all learn together here. Thanks, Deb. We appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Hey, John Deuce. Welcome, John.
Thank you, thank you. Distinguished City Council members, City of Coeur d'Alene administration, my name is John Doyce, and I represent the 200-plus residents of the Coeur d'Alene North condominiums in downtown Coeur d'Alene. First, I'd like to say to council members, I want to compliment you on the modifications you've made to the municipal codes to reduce vehicle noise. The residents of Coeur d'Alene North condominiums have observed a significant reduction in engine noise along Northwest Boulevard. I do mean significant. We sincerely thank you for that. Secondly, I want to personally thank Troy Tymason over here, City Administrator, for taking the lead in addressing the noise issues downtown. The placement of noise warning signs at the east end of Sherman Avenue and also on Northwest Boulevard have noticeably contributed to the reduced noise on Northwest Boulevard. He also courteously invited me to meet with him to discuss the noise and speed issues. His personal engagement with city residents should be complimented. So thank you, Troy. And finally, and I didn't know he'd be here present, the Coeur d'Alene Police Department has done an outstanding job of enforcing the new noise criteria of the updated municipal codes. I was invited to meet with several police department personnel to share thoughts on enforcement of the codes. The list of actions of the police department is taking is impressive. I would encourage you to request an update from the Chief of Police, Lee White, who happens to be in the back room. I didn't know that. So thank you for that. The last thing, and I do want to work in the future with Mr. Tymeson, is we would like to see a speed sign like this. This is inbound 3rd Street, just past the fire department on the left-hand side. It posts the speed limit, it records the actual speed of the vehicle, and it gives you a slow down warning if you're over the speed. And so that would be the next project that I'd like to work with Mr. Tymeson. Thank you all for your time, and thank you, Mr. Tymeson, for being so
Thanks, John. Thanks for the attaboys. Holy mackerel, Jack Riggs is here. Jack Riggs, welcome. Guys, we're having like some memory things going on. There's historical stuff going on.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem and Council. Thanks for the opportunity to revisit the proclamation on the Croc Center. I want to thank the mayor, who can't be with us tonight, for that proclamation. For 15 years, and for some of us that are here in the audience, that story actually goes back 20 years, and I just wanted to share a little bit about that history of a transformation from a hole in the ground, as Mayor Pro Tem mentioned, to a place of love, opportunity, and transformation. It was an honor for myself and some of the others that are here tonight to be involved in that project. And, of course, this is not about me at all, but when I think of my time, my career, and the projects I've been able to be involved in related to this community, of starting the urgent care centers many years ago, and then in being involved when I was in office with improvements of Highway 95, the introduction of charter schools in Idaho. I feel some of those are pretty good projects, but nothing in comparison to being able to be involved with bringing the Croc Center to Coeur d'Alene. And then I reflect back as being a kid, just having grown up in Coeur d'Alene, some of the things, some of the changes that I've seen, some of the things where I think the city really got it right, or just some of the changes in this area, and a very early recollection of the freeway being put in comes to my mind. The city's acquisition of Independence Point and Tubbs Hill and the park that's behind us, those are all great accomplishments. But once again, the best thing that I think that's ever happened to Coeur d'Alene was Croc coming to Coeur d'Alene. So I want to thank you and the mayor for the proclamation, and I say happy birthday, 15 to the Croc. Thank you.
Thank you, Jack. Oh, I'm having flashbacks. Sorry. You guys are stirring the pot pretty well tonight, I have to tell you. Last one up, Emily Boyd. Come on down, Emily.
Didn't they say we'd never get 2,500 members at the Croc?
I remember.
Is that the number? We never have 2,500, or 500, what was the number, you guys? 2,500, we'll never get 20, how many are there now?
19,000.
Just saying, it's probably a good idea.
You don't mind following this, do you, Em?
No, that was
Okay.
great.
We're flashing
I'm here to
back
talk about boring things. So, good evening, Council. I am here on behalf of the Downtown Association this evening in consideration of approval of the MOU for the events. And we have gone a full year. I think last July you had tasked staff to kind of work on different agreements and bring one bulk agreement to you. Well, tonight's the night. We got it together, and we worked close with city staff, and it's been a pleasure to work with them. And we're really pleased with this agreement and appreciate the work that's gone into it. The events that are in this MOU are a large source of funding for the Downtown Association. We're largely funded by events, and which helps us take care of the downtown corridor through graffiti abatement, garbage removal, power washing, all of those fun things to keep downtown looking beautiful. So I appreciate your consideration, and I will be here throughout the meeting if there's any questions after Renata's presentation. Thank
Thanks,
you.
Emily.
Thanks.
Anyone else, public comment? Good news, bad news? We take it all, you know? All right, moving along, council announcements. Christie.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor Pro Tem. I would just like to address, yesterday afternoon, our city attorney's office released the charging decision for the racial incident that occurred toward the Utah women's basketball team. First, I'd like to thank the Coeur d'Alene Police Department and Chief Lee White for such a thorough investigation. They really did everything they could to get the facts of the case. They put a lot of incredible effort into that investigation. I also want to thank the City Attorney's Office for a very diligent review of the facts of the case and how it pertains to criminal law that could be charged. We are a nation of laws. We need to respect those laws, and I certainly have respect for the final decision, the final charging decision. But I think it's really important as a community that we still make it clear that there are some things in our community that we've all been very consistent about. We may find actions morally repugnant, and we want to support the victims. I think it's really important that we continue to support the victims in this. I appreciate the decades that's come from leadership in this community, from past mayors and council, the current mayor and council. They've been consistent in the support for human rights, civil rights, and dignity and respect for all. I think that's probably the best thing about being in this community, is that the majority of our citizens are very, very kind, inclusive people. They support diversity, and they're always doing the right thing. They always step up when they need to. And so I just want to express my appreciation to all of you for your leadership, and that, once again, support for the Utah women's basketball team. And I hope now we can move forward and continue on in the really doing the right thing in this community.
Thank you, Christy. Dan? Well, I would like to respond to a couple of the comments tonight. The first one about the parking, and having something for the Uber, Lyft drivers or things. I, for one, would really support that, and I would have no trouble whatsoever to dedicating some parking spots. We'd have to figure out, it's not impossible, figure out timing. Some things are signed for during the day, it's this, during the night, it's that. And, in terms of the safety issue, we want people to get home safe and sober and all of that. And frankly, we want to encourage people to do something other than drive a car for every person going downtown, Coeur d'Alene, especially on the thick weekends. When you think of the airport and they have, an Uber, kind of a line these days, or taxis. Now, they'd have to work it out in their community where, they couldn't be just sitting there maybe waiting for a fare, but somebody coming to get it. And if the spots were full, maybe they'd have to circle around them block once. But I think there would be a cooperative way to make that happen, and it would be worthwhile. The other one is some of the comments on the historic preservation and the potential for, moratorium on demolition. We're not addressing it tonight, but I would like to, for the staff, if they could, when we have that the next time, I would like to see the statistics, not just building permits, because my understanding is that the actual number of permits that have been asked for demolition are just a slight fraction of building permits, so we don't want to, mix the two together. Every time somebody asks, for a building permit, isn't because they're taking down a historic building or something. So anyway, I think just some of that data when we do it would be good.
Thanks, Dan. Kiki, got anything today?
I'll wait.
And Amy, welcome back.
Thank you. Thank you.
Did you learn some French words or anything?
I did learn some
Oh.
French words.
We got to go to France, so we've been talking about her all week. All right, moving on. The mayor has an appointment of Catherine Ebner to the position of Finance Director, City Treasurer.
Mr. Mayor Pro Tem,
Yes.
if I could please make that motion. I got to sit in on the interviews, and I think Catherine's fantastic. So I would make a motion to approve Catherine Ebner to the position of Finance Director, City Treasurer.
Second?
Been moved and seconded. Any discussion?
Welcome to the city of Coeur d'Alene.
Can you give us a wave, I think? For those of us not in on the interviews.
Yes.
Okay, thanks. Okay.
All right. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Moving on. Consent calendar.
Mayor Pro Tem, I'd like to make a motion to approve the consent calendar as presented, including resolution number 24-032.
Second?
Been moved and seconded. All those in discussion? Any comments? All those in favor say aye.
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 Roll call.
Roll call. Help me here. Throw
Miller?
something at me.
Aye.
McEvers,
Yes.
English,
Yes.
Wood,
Yes.
Evans.
Yes.
All right, moving on to other business. This is the fun stuff. Troy, we're going to do authorization of reallocation of the remainder of funds appropriated to CDA 2030, Inc. in the amount of $18,750 to Panhandle Area Council, the expenditure of said funds being restricted to the Housing Solutions Partnership for work with a primary public purpose in the nature of that previously performed by CDA 2030. Boy, you guys just write things.
You said it so well, Mayor Pro Tem.
Why, thank you.
Yes, this is not a new expenditure. As you stated, it is a reallocation. We seek council's input on that. You have a colleague, Councilmember Miller, that knows a great deal about this and has worked with Panhandle Area Council, one of our many partners that help us get things done. They have a great framework in which to deploy the Housing Solutions Partnership. And Mr. Jacobson is in the audience tonight as well. Thank you for being here, sir. So City of Coeur d'Alene has long worked with Coeur d'Alene 2030, Inc., doing business as Connect Kootenai, for visioning and community outreach assistance. During the last budget cycle, the Regional Housing and Growth Issues Partnership, acronym RHGIP, merged with Coeur d'Alene 2030, Inc. Councilmember Miller encouraged the continuance of the previously approved 2030 agreement and support thereof to continue to do work in the area of housing. A change has occurred this year, and Coeur d'Alene 2030, Inc., doing business as the Connect Kootenai, ceased operations, and thus the funds are available. We paid them on a quarterly basis, so these are the remainder funds. So this work needs to continue, as we see in our community and we hear so frequently. So data collection and multiple housing studies illustrates the economic impact of not being able to house local workers. To address this impact, proven successes need to come forward, and they have emerged from the Regional Housing Group. Now shortened to, we had to shorten something up here. So we're going to Housing Solutions Partnership, which is on your screen here. The same jurisdictions, organizations, and business would continue to be involved. Several projects currently underway, including the free regionally approved accessory dwelling unit plans that everyone is working on in all the jurisdictions, planning and zoning, educational workshops, and a longer list in this PowerPoint. Partners have a desire to work and continue this, and of course, all of that needs some money. So Councilmember Miller, being active in this, went out and found a partner, shortened the name, and is seeking the restrictions on the money that would go to our Panhandle Area Council. They would oversee the fiscal management and the contract oversight. Councilmember Miller has requested us to bring this forward. Again, the money is in your financial plan. There's no amendments necessary. We would just reallocate it. City attorney, always involved in these agreements, has stated that the taxpayer funds would need to be used for primarily public purposes. You will see that in the memorandum of understanding, where the direct benefits go to no one property owner, and that would be prohibited. So the guardrails, as our city attorney does so well at. So we have following options that could be considered as providing primarily public purpose. Housing Solution Partnerships does not engage in building homes, buying land, or acquiring any assets. Partnership is a vessel to provide legitimate legal avenues for other entities to utilize in preserving or creating local worker housing. Exists to educate, provide leadership, and work on successful projects or actions that address this crisis. Supports data gathering, presents facts to the community. So the housing studies, the rental reports that we've seen, the consumer projections, reports, all that information gathering would be of public benefit. There is no workforce housing, which is a HUD term, being directly created by the Housing Solutions Partnership, just to give you a clarity point. The partnership supports the organization like PAHA, and they do create, which PAHA does, create physical housing. They also share the data, they cross-pollinize all those good activities so that we can continue to work on this challenge. Toolkit solutions that Councilmember Miller has been instrumental in bringing forward, along with the partners, help us as a community to provide resources, data collection, data distribution, community education, and coordination of the meetings. All necessary pieces and parts to this. So the ask is to move dollars that you already have in your financial plan over to our partners at Panhandle Area Council and give these guidelines for the Housing Solutions Partnership.
Questions?
Well, I would like to make a motion so we can have good discussion. Would that be all right?
Sure.
Mr. Mayor Pro Tem, I make the motion to approve resolution number 24-033, authorizing the reallocation of funds previously appropriated for Coeur d'Alene 2030 incorporated into the amount of 18,750 to Panhandle Area Council.
Second?
Got a motion and a second. Discussion.
Well, I anticipate that Councilmember Miller will have a lot of discussion, but I just want to say that I can't think of a better use of these funds, and I so appreciate the effort by not only Councilmember Miller, but all the other people that she's brought together in a strong coalition to address this. In this very strong PowerPoint that has been added to our packet, it just leaps out at you that 24 of 30 categories of local workers are unable to purchase homes here. And I know she's worked diligently to come up with solutions to that. This is a very small amount of money, and if it can help with solution finding, I think it's a very smart investment, and I completely support it.
Dan?
Yeah, I'm supportive of this too, and actually it's not just that it's in a financial plan, but we've approved that money in our budget, so we're moving from one category to another in the budget. And then for me, anyway, you know, I'm always aware of the fact that when you look at our entire budget, we spend a very small fraction on social service needs. And yet, you know, and housing is one of the things that consistently over and over, no matter who's asking from which direction, is one of the needs. So actually, I'm one who is usually beating the drum for, you know, more of that. So to just shift some of what we've already approved, that seems like a no-brainer to me. But
Amy, got anything?
Nope. I will let Kiki have the floor. I can feel her.
I appreciate the motion and the discussion, and I just wanted to share that I could get up and go through the whole PowerPoint, but I know it really well, so I could just recite the whole thing. But it is on the city's website, so anyone who wants to take a look at that. And I also hope that you saw some letters of support that came in after the packet was created. The Idaho Housing and Finance Association is calling the work that, not just me, but the team that we put together of conveners, the gold standard in how to move forward programs in housing that the entire nation, as well as the city of Coeur d'Alene and our region are desperate for. We've launched a long list of successful items so far in the last 3 years that we've been working on this, but there are more things. This is a shotgun approach. There's not one single thing that's going to solve it. And so we are conveners of all the good ideas, and we're going to keep moving forward. I've committed to another year to volunteer in coordinating this group, and I'm excited that Panhandle Area Council stepped up and said this is so important to our community. They have the ability, it marries with their mission of helping startups, and Wally and Nancy out at PAC have been great in putting together something that I think we can make a real sustainable program into the future. I also wanted to add that Coeur d'Alene isn't the only funder who's going to be putting money into this. There's other organizations, businesses that are going to do that because they see the need and the value. And I will be posting, I'm doing an article in the paper. You'll see some of these ideas, but they're linked on the website. So there'll be ample time for updates and information and being able to stay in front of the good stuff we're doing. So I'd appreciate the support.
Troy, I had one question. So our old funding for CDA 2030, we kind of project that we're just going to move it forward. This is filling in the gap, but next year, you think?
We'll see what happens in the upcoming budget.
Okay. All right. Any other comments? Hearing none, roll call, please.
McEvers.
I have to be first? Yes.
English.
Yes.
Wood.
Yes.
Evans.
Yes.
Miller.
Yes.
It passes. Thank you, everyone. Chris Bosley, our traffic light guy.
Not here to talk about traffic lights today. Thank you, council. What I bring before you tonight is a professional services agreement with HMH Engineering for construction engineering and inspection of our RRFB project, which is rectangular rapid flashing beacons. A couple years ago, we applied for a grant through the local Highway Technical Assistance Council, and that grant is based on the types of pedestrian or bicyclist crashes that we have in the area. And so we took a map and we looked at those areas, and then we had to weed out which ones were fatal, unfortunately, and which ones were type A, meaning a serious injury, and that's what you see on the right here. We had those scattered around the area. So we looked for pedestrian safety improvements that could be completed to address those areas. So what we came up with, this is a rectangular rapid flashing beacon that we installed at Bryan Elementary several years ago. That's just an example of what we will be putting in with this project. This is one of the sites that we will be putting them here at the Lake City High School across Hanley. You can see kids here. This is a Google Street View image where kids are running across the street. We will be putting it on the west side of this intersection where the crossing is much shorter, and it will be a much safer crossing location for them. And then right down the street at Hanley Avenue and Madeline Drive, we're putting in another one here at this location. It's got an existing crosswalk marked, but it needs some higher visibility. And then right here at the top of the hill behind Fred Meyer at Bosanko and Howard, we will be putting in rectangular rapid flashing beacons at this location. And then originally we had 3 to be put in on Riverstone Drive. It seemed like a lot for one short-ish street, and because of available construction funding, we eliminated 2 of those locations, and we're sticking with the one in the middle, which seems to be the higher used location, and that's at Beebe Boulevard and Riverstone Drive. And then lastly, we were going to put one in at Best Avenue near 6th Street, but we ended up putting one in a couple years ago for Bora Elementary because they needed it at the time. And instead, we shifted that funding to complete the sidewalk. You can see there's no sidewalk along here, so the contractor, Selland Construction, will be putting in sidewalk in that area. And so we have chosen HMH through a request for proposal qualifications through LTAC, and they will be managing the project for us. So with that, I would stand for any questions.
Questions? I have to ask. So for this 100,000, does this actually do the work, or they just manage it for that?
They are just managing the work.
Okay. I have to ask you about these beacon things. So these things prioritize pedestrians, right? That's
Well,
what it's for.
It highlights pedestrians. It's a warning beacon. It's not like a stop control, like a signal. If a pedestrian pushes a button, crosswalk button, at a signal, it turns red, cars have to stop. This is a warning device to let motorists know that a pedestrian is about to cross the street. If they step foot into the crosswalk, show intent to cross, then they're required to stop. But if the flashing light is going and nobody's trying to cross, the vehicles can continue on.
Okay. Because I was driving through the hospital zone, and it seems like the lights are on, and you have to stop, and there's a bunch of people walk through, but you can go through if there isn't people.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
I don't have a question, but I just have a comment. Chris, thank you. You've been working on this for years, I know, and I just appreciate all your effort and time identifying the appropriate locations and increasing the safety for our pedestrians and bikes and runners. So you've done a lot of work on this, and it's greatly appreciated.
Thank you.
Kiki?
Just one, if you, are these removable? If you say that you've done this study and then you find down the road that you've installed one of these at a location in the hospital, can you reinstall it somewhere else?
It is potential, there is potential that we could do that. I don't know.
I'm just curious with so many changes and roads and configurations where, you know, if you have the ability to.
Right, if there was a bigger demand at another location, it seems appropriate that you could do that. I would be afraid if somebody got hit after we removed one from that location.
Right. I'm thinking more of new reconfigured roads where it's now an obsolete.
Yes,
item.
and these have concrete foundations in the ground. They're bolted onto them, and so we could just remove them and put them in a new location, move them to the side, readjust them however we need to in the future, yes.
Part of the plan.
Any questions, you guys? I'll look for a motion, please.
I'd like to make a motion to approve resolution number 24-034, approval of a professional services agreement with HMH LLC for construction, engineering, and inspection services for the rectangular rapid flashing beacon project in an amount not to exceed $100,785.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Discussion? Hearing none. Roll call, please.
English,
Yes.
Wood,
Yes.
Evans,
Yes.
Miller,
Aye.
McEvers.
Yes, please. Thank you. Moving on, resolution, approval of amendment number 5 to solid waste services contract with Northern State PAC LLC, DBA as Coeur d'Alene Garbage Services. Troy?
Council members and Mayor Pro Tem, we are going to talk recycling on this proposed amendment number 5. Recycling is a commodities business, and in so doing, if there's no demand, the marketability of that product is very poor, and thus you have to pay to get rid of it. We have been in that status for quite a while. That's the reason that Coeur d'Alene Garbage came forward in years gone by to work on this recycling challenge that we have. So with that as a backdrop, the future looks better than where we have been, in my opinion, on recycling. What does that mean? That means that the cost appears to be coming down from where it's been. So that's good news. So this extension is for 3 years. It helps protect Coeur d'Alene Garbage, and it helps protect the city so that we can work together if recycling costs were continuing to go up. So put some guardrails on what our exposure would be, since we can't control that business whatsoever. So let me give you some numbers on why I think the future looks brighter going forward. City of Coeur d'Alene chooses to provide this service. You have gone above and beyond in helping your community. You provide it as a package. You cannot say, no, I don't want to pay for recycling. We include it in the cost. You have not raised the rates in 8 years. Give me about 30 minutes or less, and I'm going to bring forward, with the help of one awesome clerk, the fact that we need to raise that, but it has not been raised. So the city is able to take advantage of that commodity, and we separate it out of the waste stream, and it does not go to Fighting Creek. So it's very good. However, during the last few years, the cost to process those recyclables was going up very, very quickly. So the cost to the city for recycling that the city is paying out of the garbage fund, which is an enterprise fund or a fee for service, has been $20,129 per month just to process the recyclables. Over 12 months before that, it was north of $22,000. Now, if we go back another year, we were averaging $18,574. We just got the most recent recycling cost from Coeur d'Alene Garbage, and it was slightly less than $13,000 for the last month. So what that shows is recyclables are finding a little bit of a market. It's probably in the cardboard and things like that. So that helps, but we're still paying out money to recycle this product. So this amendment speaks to the same terms that we had. We're here a little bit early in getting this done so we can have it go from July 1st, 2024 through the end of June 2027. And you'll see in there that as it approaches $25,000 a month, we have triggered the fact that we need to get together with Coeur d'Alene Garbage and look at some options. So this is an enterprise fund, and your financial plan shows that we will do about $4.6 million in gross income. And in so doing, the biggest expense is to the hauler. You also spend money out of this fund to repurpose glass. I'm intentional about the word repurpose because it is ground up, Coeur d'Alene Garbage does that, and hauled to a pit. It's an inert substance. We have not found another use of glass. I would love to have somebody come and take our glass, but we haven't found a way to do that. And we are very, very close year over year on what we spend on repurposing that glass, and it really averages about $2,500 a month or $30,000 a year. That also is being paid out of your sanitation budget, which with a small 5.2% increase that we're proposing, this will all work, and it works really better if the cost of the recyclables comes down. So we are fortunate to have the CEO and owner of the company here tonight. If you had any questions that I couldn't answer, so I would stand for any questions you might have to extend this agreement for another 3 years.
Hey, Council. Christie.
Thank you. Well, I might ask Mr. Damiano a question. Just anecdotally, sure. I know in my neighborhood that my neighbors are really conscientious. They really do use the recycling. It's important to them to try not to fill our landfill landfill with things that aren't necessary. So I'm just curious, throughout Coeur d'Alene, what's your experience with the rate of people really being diligent on their recycling?
I think it's very good in Coeur d'Alene, with a caveat that the program that we have takes very few people to do it incorrectly to kind of ruin it. So if you have Mr. Green, and he's very fastidious about how he prepares his recycling, takes the caps off, takes the labels off, does everything perfect, and then he has his brother, Mr. Green, and you pick up 5 or 10 Mr. Greens that do it perfectly, and then you have somebody that puts a bunch of baby diapers in the recycle bin, and you dump it, it contaminates everything that it touches within the truck. So there's a lot of contamination that happens in this particular system, and this is the system that is countrywide. This is the gold standard of how they want to pick this stuff up, and then it's sent to a material recovery facility, actually in Tacoma, and they have all these conveyor belts and everything, and it separates it all out. And this agreement that we came up with is excellent because it's a sliding scale. As Troy was saying, I pick up the first $20 of the cost, and everything over $20 up to $25,000 a month, you're helping me with, okay? When we first started, I was getting paid $10 a ton, so I'm eating $30 a ton for every ton that we pick up, and which is fine. But this little bit of help that you give me really enables me to continue doing it, and when the price goes down, like it has this last month, then the scale slides down. And when we need a little bit more help, the scale slides up. And I don't have any say in what those commodity prices are.
Sure.
When China decided that they weren't taking recyclables, the price went up 1,100% overnight. And that isn't that I'm running a bad company. That's out of my control. And so that's why I came to the city, and we made an agreement that that wasn't me running a shabby business. That was something that was out of my control.
Sure. It seems like we should probably do some more public awareness on what you're dealing with when you pick up these recyclables. Because I think generally people want to do the right thing, but they ought to know a baby diaper in there is not the right thing.
Well, yeah, and they've done a lot of education in the school systems, but when you tell little Johnny, take out the trash, he just puts it in whatever bin isn't full.
Sure.
And did you take that trash out? Yeah. Well, he put it in the blue bin instead of the green bin. And then, so I don't think that it's malicious that people are, I think that it's not in the forefront of their minds. And, we have brochures and we have tags when we can see that it's nasty, we put a tag on it saying, we're not even going to pick this one up. So there is some education that you can do.
Thank you.
And so Troy, I get that this is going to fluctuate, but to the average person, listening, like over the next month, next year, next 3 years, is their garbage bill going to change? Okay.
No, we are just proposing that increase in our rate fees, and then we're hoping to level out the valleys and hope for the hills that would help the fund.
Okay. And also feedback on, I remember, we had quite a discussion on the glass stuff, and, every once in a while I hear of something, but I also think, to me at least, I heard loud and clear from the community that we don't care if it costs, more to us. We're willing to pay a little extra so that the glass, they can put it. And I don't know how many people actually, do put it in those, but it's good to have it.
Tonnage? Do you know the tonnage? Sure.
Off the top of my head, it's on the last bill.
We don't have that figure, how much
Sure.
off the top of our heads. But there is, it's being repurposed, so it's going over to, it's going out of state. It's not going into our Kootenai County-owned landfill, and so that's a positive. So people are getting some benefit by putting the glass in the glass depots, and we're crushing it. We're being really efficient with it. We're hauling it out of state, and they're basically using it as inert fill right now for a period of time in Boise. They were grinding up glass and putting it in sandpaper. They had some sandpaper manufacturer out in Eagle that was taking part of that glass. But the problem with glass is it's just really tricky stuff to recycle. So removing it from your landfill and preserving the life of your landfill by not putting that stuff in it is a positive. And so that's kind of what we hang our hat on this.
One more follow-up?
Go ahead.
211 what? Tons. 211 tons of glass that we repurpose.
And then one other question, just since, I know we've done a lot to promote recycling, people like to do it, and I happen to have our counseling office down on, about 11th and Mullen, and the alley that runs down on our side of the alley is, kind of commercial, but right across the alley, and the guy comes in, is residential, and the building owner would love to have, blue recycling bin for us, and the neighbors across the alley 10 feet wouldn't care if we took it over there. Is there?
Call the office. Yeah, we'll set you up. I don't see a problem with that.
I'll tell her, okay.
Okay.
Mission accomplished, okay.
Anything else?
Amy, questions for this?
Troy, maybe you can clarify this one for me. This is an amendment to the contract, which I'm looking for, does this amendment extend the actual expiration dates of the overall contract? And
It does
can you
not.
explain that?
No, it just extends the last agreement we had for this recycling piece.
Okay, so this is just within the overall contract, the recycling piece, it's an amendment to that. But when the term of the original contract comes up and the garbage contract needs to go out to bid, that has not changed.
That has not changed.
Thank you.
Couple quick questions. How much impact does lawns, landscaping? That's kind of a seasonal thing. Do you see an increase in?
Yeah, we see an increase in volume, and we just ask that you bag your lawn clippings and put it right in your garbage bin. We don't run a separate composting program because the growing season is so short here. They actually have one in Spokane, which actually has a little bit more mild climate. But that, I would look at it if you wanted something like that, but I think that you're maybe a little bit more cost conscious for what it really does. And that material actually decomposes very well in the landfill. So it shrinks up because it's kind of organic and kind of goes away.
So you like it separated, not just dumped in the can?
I want it in a bag.
Okay.
I want it in a Glad black bag.
You get that
Because it
already?
sticks in the bottom. One, it stinks, and two, it starts that combust. So if your garbage day's on Wednesday, and you mow your grass on Wednesday evening when you get home from work, and you put it in there without a bag, it starts composting, and then it sticks to the can, and then we get a call that says, "Oh, you didn't dump our can all the way," and it was like, well, we did dump your can, and I was out there and I lifted it, but because you improperly loaded your can, then we have to come back and bear that expense to get the other half. So I like it in a bag.
No, that's good to know. The inside scoop, you guys were getting it.
Getting all the dirt, all the
How about the
trash
difference
here.
between winter volume and summer volume?
The summer volume's heavier.
And would that affect our prices?
Mm-mm.
No. Okay.
Mr. Mayor Pro Tem?
Yes.
Thank you.
I'd make a motion to approve resolution number 24-035, approval of amendment number 5 to the solid waste services contract with Northern State PAC LLC DBA Coeur d'Alene Garbage Services.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Discussion. Hearing none. Roll call, please.
English,
Yes.
Wood,
Yes.
Evans,
Yes.
Miller,
Aye.
McEvers.
Yes. Next up, Todd, Streets and Engineering. He's got some stories, don't you, Todd?
They changed something, so just a second. I can't.
Darn.
Thank you.
Resolution 24036, approval of agreement with Interstate Concrete and Asphalt for the 2024 mill and inlay project. We're getting some new streets, yeah?
Oh, yeah. Good evening, Mayor Pro Tem and council members. So my PowerPoint kind of goes over both packets. I can do them separate, or I kind of would like to just do it all at once, whatever works for you.
All at once, please.
Okay. Well, we have an exciting year. Streets and Engineering is very excited for the projects we have this year. If you remember last year, this is some of the work we did last year. This is what a mill and inlay looks when we start. So we have a grinder that goes through, and whatever depth we say we want, that's what it will mill out. So last year we did from 1.5 inches to 2.5 inches. This section was on Atlas Road up north. We did 3.5 there. So it really depends on the surface. Just a reminder, this is what it looks like, dump trucks and a big machine that machine actually is able to go at walking pace, so it removes the road that quick. It's kind of fun to watch. And then, of course, chip seal. Since I took over as director, we have really started focusing on the longevity of our streets. And so when we mill and do an inlay or overlay new asphalt, our goal is within a few years to go back over it with a chip seal to seal it up, and that's going to give us the longest life of the surface. So anyway, so I will get started. So on our chip seal project, since 2016, we've done approximately 80 lane miles of roadway in with chip seal only, and you can kind of see the pockets of town that we've done it there on the map. This year, we're at the point with Northwest Boulevard. Last year's project took us to the north side of Lakewood there. Now we're going to start at Lakewood and do Northwest Boulevard all the way down to the Four Corners down here. That road is it's right on the edge where it's starting to get alligatoring. We're having some spots show, so we would like to seal it back up and gain 5 to 10 years out of it. We feel like the best method would best amongst all the businesses. That would have been a very economical way for us to add some life to Sherman Avenue. So at the end of 2 weeks, when we learned there was no bidders, we added Sherman to this list, extended the bid by 1 week, and then we had interest. So anyway, our mill and inlay this year is going to be a short piece of Appleway. It's a very wide section of road from Ramsey where we left off last year, and we're going to go just shy of Lowe's. Depending on the budget and where we might extend and go closer to Howard, but right now it's just shy of Lowe's there. So we'll start here, go around this bend. It's really fallen apart. We're going to mill 1.5 inches of asphalt off that surface and to put brand new asphalt back in its place. We're also going to do Ramsey Road where we left off last year at the same intersection, Appleway. The northbound lanes are needing it. That will go all the way up to the fire station, Station 2 there at Kathleen and Ramsey. Again, where we left off last year's project. And then Sherman Avenue will be from Fort Grounds Drive through Independence Point, all the way down through 8th in Sherman, through that intersection completely. We will do approximately 25 to 30 feet north and south at every intersection so we can put new crosswalk markings. So it will be brand new road surface. It will have we've moved to using thermoplastic. Councilmember McEvers was out this last week and I showed him what that product looks like. We actually burn it down. It lasts up to 3 years that we don't have to go and paint it every year. So we put this product down. It will stay bright, reflective for up to 3 years, and then we will go reapply it after that. So it saves our crew time. we struggle right now with the size of our department to repaint the town every season. Pull downtown, once the bars start to close, that last half of the night, they will start closing down several blocks, keeping consideration for emergency services, things like that. But they're hoping up to 10 days for that project. It will all be night work, so. Staff recommends for our mill and inlay, the lowest bid was Interstate Concrete and Asphalt at $1,471,888. We have money set aside for the section of Atlas Road we're doing, and then the rest of this will be through our chip and overlay budget. We are anticipating a little more room, so you might see us stretch some of these projects out just a little bit. It's cheaper while they're there just to tell them to do a little bit more, go another block or something like that if we have the funds. While they're there, we want to do as much as we can. Two options would be to go further down Appleway. We feel there's little room there. Or we've looked at down on Sherman, start going up Lakeside from 8th Street around the bend. There, the road's really falling apart by the post office, so we might look at doing something like that. Still would all be night work. So that's the first one with Interstate Concrete and Asphalt. And then the chip seal, that was interesting. I'll just note this year, back and forth. Last year, Poe Asphalt was very aggressive, and they got the lower bid. The reason we have a little bit of room, this year Road Products LLC came in at $717,708.20, and then the next closest bidder was just north of $900,000. So that gives us a little room to add to the project. So anyway, I'd be willing to answer any questions.
Mr. Mayor Pro Tem.
Go ahead.
Well, first, Todd, I really want to thank you for the tour of the street department remodel. I was really impressed with what you've been able to do with the funding that was allocated, and you were definitely that guy that goes to garage sales on the weekend, and you don't pay sticker price. So, really impressive. With this, I just had one quick question, especially when it comes to Sherman Avenue. We know how many events we have, how busy we are. How are you going to get that done? Is it a nighttime project, and when is it scheduled for?
So, scary month. Yeah. Emily, take a deep breath. So, it will be around events. They have been told that they can't be anywhere near 5th and Sherman on a Wednesday night, so they know that already. It will all be night work. The only time it might be during a daytime shift is when our crew is putting paint or the thermoplastic down, but we will start early and try and be back open by 10 a.m. when the business is open. We have had a lot of conversation with Interstate about the events, about the businesses. Before we start the project, we will have a pre-construction meeting with police, fire, with the Downtown Association in the resort, so they all have input on what the schedule looks like. Right now, I was trying to push for an earlier start. With a cold spring like this. We can't do this work right now. We need warmer temperatures, especially at night. So they are looking at the week of July 11th and to be done before August. So that window. So we will work with the events. I will be in communication with all of the events, especially the Downtown Association, to make sure that we keep everything going forward. So,
thank you.
Danny boy.
Sure. Well, I feel like I'm maybe channeling Councilman Gookin tonight to be the lonely voice crying in the wilderness, but different times I have talked about the intersection at 4th and Sherman and the safety hazard. I mean, at one point we've got the one-way traffic going up, and if you're in the left-hand lane, right as you're coming up, people end up parking right in that last bit and totally blocks out. You can't see pedestrians and all of that. And I've said, gee, we need to paint it red. And I've been told we don't do red curbs anymore. But surely if we're doing all of this and everything, couldn't they design maybe by zips or something on sharp, but I mean, kind of an elongated bulb or something, but there ought to be something to do to take care of that safety hazard. That's one. Two is, I'm, delighted to hear you say about if we have something extra around the parking lot. I would really like to see us fill in those potholes in the post office parking lot, because my four-wheel drive can barely get through that post office parking lot, and we could be good neighbors with our federal partners or something, but,
Well, to answer your first question, Councilmember English, so at 4th Street, heading northbound from front up the hill there,
yeah.
we changed that years ago. Technically, there is a parking lane there, and there is only one lane of traffic that you can turn left, right, or go straight. As soon as you go through the intersection, turns back into 2 lanes. With these lane markings,
But
it will
people
be
park,
much
I mean, in
clearer.
that
It'll be marked out clearer.
Okay.
They're a lot brighter. The thermoplastic will stand out more.
Okay.
And we've had people question, do we need to back that parking off by 1 stall? Maybe we'll check
Yes.
into that, so.
Yes, we do.
As far as at the post office, yes, that whole area around the post office is ugly. Unfortunately, if my crew goes into their parking lot, they're gonna get their hands slapped by me because that's private property and we're not allowed to touch that. So, we can fix out on the street.
Okay.
We can talk to the post office, but I'm not allowed to.
We'll have to get a petition up on that
There you
one, okay?
Help me. You got anything, Ames? Kiki? Nothing?
No, well, real quick, Todd, did you put the bid tabs for the road products, the chip seal
They're
contract?
in your packet. I can read it for you. if you
No,
want.
I found the mill and inlay project, but
It's further in the report. I
Okay.
don't have page numbers here.
I'll look it up. I
Anyway,
know.
the 2 bids, I can just tell you right.
Or just 2?
There was just 2. And again, nobody responded to the first when we were gonna chip seal down there. So it was just the Road Products LLC, formerly known as Arrow, but $717,708.20, and then Poe Asphalt came in at $907,672.
Thank you.
So, yeah, we extended that bid by a week, so it was out for 3 weeks to attract the other bidders, so.
Okay, hearing no other questions, I'll look for a motion.
Mr. Mayor, I would like to make a motion to approve resolution number 24-036, approval of an agreement with Interstate Concrete and Asphalt for the 2024 mill and inlay project in the amount not to exceed $1,471,888.
Second.
Been moved and second. Any other discussion? Hearing none. Roll call, please.
Wood,
Yes.
Evans,
Yes.
Miller,
Aye.
McEvers,
Yes.
English,
Yes.
Thank you.
And
Moving
since
on.
we heard both presentations, I would move to approve resolution number 24-037, an agreement with Road Products LLC for the 2024 chip seal project in an amount not to exceed $717,708.20.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Questions, comments? Hearing none. Roll call, please.
Evans,
Yes.
Miller,
Aye.
McEvers,
Yes.
English,
Yes.
Wood,
Yes.
Moving on. Resolution 24038, approval of agreement with DW Excavating, Inc. for the 2023-24 wastewater collection system capital improvement project. Mikey, welcome.
Thank you, Councilman McEvers, and other council members. Tonight, it's a pretty exciting night. I saw there's just tons of fun stuff going on out there. It just seems like a lot of great city business, so it's a pleasure to be a part of this tonight. And I am pleased to discuss one of the city's jewels this evening as well, our collection system. Singularly, in my mind at least, one of the best ones, but certainly if there's several crown jewels, this is one of the, in all seriousness, one of the most expensive assets that the city owns. And the wastewater department spends many hundreds of thousands of dollars a year maintaining it. This year, we budgeted $850,000 to maintain that asset. And the projects that we have designated for this year are broken up into 3 different ones. I've put on the, I don't have a presentation for you, but I just thought it might be worthwhile for the public to be able to see a breakdown of the bids. Kind of explains it a little bit easier. But Schedule A is 19th and 20th Streets, and so we have 3 schedules, or sections, Schedule A, B, and C, and all of them, I didn't line up good, all of them are to increase pipe size from 6 inches to 8 inches. Our crew has a very difficult time maintaining 6-inch lines. We don't have equipment that can get in there anymore. That's just generally older lines. It's difficult to get our cameras in there. In fact, many times impossible to get our cameras in there. And so what we generally do is do open trench work, which is what this is, where we dig the hole into the ground and actually replace the pipe. That's the only way we can really get in there in our area and get an 8-inch line in place. So we'll be doing that in Schedule A, which is 19th and 20th Streets. Schedule B is on Cherrywood Drive, and Schedule C is near the Exxon gas station on 4th Street there, they're on Homestead Avenue. You can see the bidders in your packet as well as up here on screen. DW Excavating came in lowest for all of those at just under $775,000. With engineering, this is going to come out to a shade over $1 million, $1.15 million. And we only had budgeted $850,000 this year. Next year, we were planning on spending $900,000. You'll recall that Wastewater projects years ahead on what we're going to be doing, and this is a regularly scheduled thing that we do. So next year, we had our rate set up and everything, so we would spend $900,000 on this. Because these costs came in pretty attractively, we'd like to do all of them. And you'll see when we come with our budget, we've lowered our next year's budget to $600,000 to offset the costs that we're going to go over on this. So we'll come forward in August and explain that budget amendment, but you'll see in the forthcoming year's budget a reduced amount to offset this. So with that, I would ask that you award DW Excavating with the bid and stand to answer any questions you may have.
Questions?
No, Mr. Mayor Pro Tem, I think we all know what happens when these pipes burst. So this is important stuff. I would make a motion to approve resolution number 24038, approval of the agreement with DW Excavating Incorporated for the 2024 wastewater collection system capital improvement project in the amount not to exceed $774,512.
Second.
Been moved and second. Just a couple questions. How many more 6-inch lines, how many miles you got left to do in the future, do you know?
I don't know. Not many. I mean, we're really knocking them out, and we've done some, I think, for the last several years. Previous to that, we were doing a lot of CIPP work, which is that lining, where we put that liner inside the old pipes. We can get a lot more linear feet. Our money really goes a long way when we do that, but like I said, unfortunately can't do that with these 6-inch lines. I don't know how many we have left.
Do 6 inches mostly just historical places where the pipes were smaller because it's an older section of town, or?
It was our previous standard. So yeah, it'd be an older section of town. They're usually old concrete pipes, and they generally fail. Some of these are a mix of concrete and clay, and literally when you drive our camera down there, you can't even see.
Wow.
So.
And so 8 inch is the minimum now?
Yes.
All right. Any other questions? Hearing none, look for a roll call, please.
Miller.
Aye.
McEvers.
Yes.
English.
Yes.
Wood.
Yes.
Evans.
Yes.
All right, Renata. Let's see, approval of memorandum of understanding with the Downtown Association for 2024-2025 parades.
Yes. So as you know, over the past year, we've been bringing you forward contracts for each event. So this is kind of a summation of all of those contracts put into one memorandum of understanding for the St. Patrick's Day, Coeur d'Alene Street Fair, and the lighting ceremony and fireworks parade event. So all those into one agreement. We're proposing a 2-year agreement Staff has been working with the Downtown Association to really organize roles and responsibilities for these events. The Downtown Association has taken on more of the responsibility for traffic control. The street department's been very willing to train some of their volunteers to be able to get them certified traffic control and to handle more of the workload on that end. So as you'll see under the financial analysis, we've just taken all of the permit fees and combined them into one. This year, they've already paid for the St. Patrick's Day one, so in your agreement, you're gonna see that this year's amount is $3,600 instead of that $3,750. But then we took a 5% increase for next year's fees, so that is how we come up with the total amount on those. I didn't want you to think we lost $150 somewhere. That's already been paid. So, as you know, some of the expenses that we have that are involved with parades and special events, the Downtown Association has their expenses, and you can see all combined. The Downtown Association spends about $46,000 annually, and the city spends about $59,000 annually. That's increased a little bit from last year due to employee wage increases, et cetera, and the costs to the Downtown Association have also risen, but in all things held consistently, that's where we are about on those expenses. So we've taken staff time to prepare all those traffic control plans. They can be reused, so now we don't have to go through and recreate those annually. So we'd really like to have that 2-year agreement and keep those traffic control plans and all the roles and responsibilities the same over the next 2 years. And I will stand for any questions.
Questions? Well, the enthusiasm is overwhelming.
Well, just a comment, Mr. Mayor Pro Tem. This is just a really great partnership with the Downtown Association. And these are the kind of events that really brings the community together. It really invigorates the community. So I appreciate the work that went into this. I think it's a good agreement, and I'm certainly ready to support it.
Vicky?
Go ahead, Amy.
Well, I was just going to add, I am a little jet lagged, so I'm always pretty quiet, but I'm a little bit quieter than usual, so I apologize for that. But I just want to thank Emily and the Downtown Business Association and agree with what Christy said. It does add life and spark to the community and brings everyone together to celebrate some fun events throughout the year, not even just in the summer. So I appreciate all the work that the city does, as well as Emily and team.
Kiki?
I just wanted a point of clarification, Renata, because in here, it lists the certain parades, but it has, it doesn't have 4th of July parade. Is
Right.
that because it's separate and it's done with the Chamber of Commerce? or
Yes,
what? Okay.
separate entity. So at your next meeting, I'll be bringing you an agreement with the
okay.
Chamber of Commerce for 4th of July.
I was a little ahead of the game there.
All right, hearing no comments, need a motion, please.
Mayor Pro Tem, I'd like to make a motion to approve resolution number 24-039, approval of a memorandum of understanding with the Downtown Association for 2024 and 2025 parades.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Questions, discussion? Hearing none, roll call, please.
English,
Yes.
Wood,
Yes.
Evans,
Yes.
Miller,
Hi.
McEvers.
Yes. Thank you. Motion passes. We are now going to do a public hearing for Resolution 24040, approving city fee increases for the following departments, and it's just about everybody. Administration, parking moorage and moorage fees, finance, garbage rates, street lighting fees, municipal services, license permit fee, creation of a new fee for loudspeaker permits, and emergency locate fee for non-emergencies. The Parks Department, we're updating the tennis court rentals, which I think includes the pickleball wild ones, and league fees. Planning Department, development fee, related fees, short-term rental, civil penalty, encroachment permits with the establishment of civil penalties for violations, and Water Department water rates and fees. Renata, take it away.
Thank you, Woody. You gave most of my presentation, so I'll just,
Great.
I'll
I'll
just
make it easy
speed
for
through
you.
it. I actually have a team of folks behind me. If you have specific questions for those departments, I'm going to be the speaker on this item today, but certainly have some expertise in the room. So as you know, Idaho code requires that if we're going to increase a fee by 5% or more, we have to hold a public hearing. So that is the purpose that we're here for tonight. Staff also brings forward to you some of our changes in terminology and any fees that are less than 5% during this time. So it's easier for us to track them over the years as to when the fee changed. So some of the things you'll see are for clarification and are lower than 5%. So for administration, the fees for all of our parking lots and parking facilities are housed under that title. So they have recommended several increases to the different parking lots dependent on the demand for that location. It was run through the Parking Commission. Unfortunately, they didn't have a quorum that day, but they have reviewed it in the meantime and have not expressed any concerns with the fees that are being proposed tonight. One of the items they looked at was the civil penalty for parking violations. Ours was a little low compared to other jurisdictions around us. So you'll see in the staff report that there are some that they looked at. So it was settled that it was going to be proposed at $40, and that when you're in a lot, your first offense would still have that courtesy notice to say, hey, maybe you didn't know, you need to go pay over here. But that would also be for the parking violations that the police department issues. So it'd be $40 consistently throughout the city, so it wouldn't be different for different locations. They also added in a $50 per day moorage violation. So we do have a full day moorage fee of $50, but if the violation isn't as expensive as the fee, then we're really not making any ground on preventing people from parking there all day. So that was also included in this one. Under the finance department, we have all of the garbage rates. So Woody, when you were asking earlier, the precursor to our garbage fees going up, well, we are proposing them to go up, but it has nothing to do with the recycling part. So the fees have only been increased 2 times over 20 years. And the contract that we have with Coeur d'Alene Garbage allows for them to provide an increase to us of 2.75% annually. They don't always do that. It's based on that producer price index, but there have been increases over the years. So now really the city's costs are rising and we really need to make that level with what we're charging the customers. Some of the residential rates have increased about 5.2%, but some of the commercial rates have gone up as much as 25%. And my understanding for those, there's not very many customers that classification falls in, and it really has to do with, excuse me, some sort of bulk rate distribution. So it's very, very specific, but it is the cost that the city has. So that is the price that's being requested, and Bonnie might be able to give a little more detail on that later. And then again, we've been trying to keep up with the street lighting fees, and we have had a 2-year fee set up in our fee structure that's a 5% annual increase. So that timeline is expiring, so we're just adding the next 2 years into this fee structure. Municipal services, we have a lot of fees. We're trying to just kind of keep up with some of our expenses. We know that our staffing costs have gone up a minimum of 5%, so we really just look to increase all of our fees by about 5%. We realized earlier this year that we did not have a fee associated with an amplified sound permit. That's not a permit we often issue, but as we were talking about some of that live theater traveling down the street that would require an amplified sound permit, we realized we didn't actually have a fee established for that, and we can't charge a fee unless it's approved by resolution, so we thought we better put one in there. And we just made that equal to the encroachment permit fee amount. We have also included the beer and wine and liquor license fee structure. That is set up through the state of Idaho. We have only the ability to charge what they allow us to charge, but it wasn't listed in our fee structure list, so we thought for consistency it'd be good to put it in there. We had a couple categories that were a little bit different than some of the other ones, and we combined those together. All of these licenses have been issued for this year, so these fees really will affect their licenses for next year. So we have plenty of time to get that information out. We also have the emergency locate fee. So under the state of Idaho, when you call that 811 line, a lot of our staff gets sent out to mark your lawns for where all your lines are. We're not allowed to charge a fee for that service. And they do have an emergency locate opportunity, so if something's happened in an emergency, we have to get out there within 24 hours. What we're finding is some people are using that as the, oops, I didn't get my stuff done in time, and I have a contractor coming tomorrow, so I'm gonna get that emergency line in there and get in people early. So what staff has done is requested that if we find that it's really not an emergency, there would be a penalty of $100 charged with that service, and hopefully prevent people from doing that again. So it's really involving streets and engineering, water, wastewater, and municipal services. We have some IT that has to go out there when we have fiber lines. So it does affect a lot of your departments, and it is a big pull on time. Okay, so under municipal service, we also have the parade and special events permit fees. We have proposed a 5%. When we took this through General Services and Public Works, Councilman Gookin wanted you to see what a 10% increase would also be. So we were proposing 5, but if you are interested in approving a 10% increase, that is what those fees would raise to. So what we're really hoping to do is 5% this year and take some time and really study what parades and special events should be, look at how other communities are handling it, and bring that in under a separate presentation to you all under a separate hearing. But we are requesting 5% this year. Parks and Recreation would like to increase their tennis court rental fee and their league fees to be in concert with their actual staff rate of $40. And they had a couple other fee increases that were less than 5% that are listed in your packet. The Planning Department, I know a lot of their fees, it looks like a substantial amount, but they really took some time to reorganize those fees, maybe rename them a little bit, and really be consistent with their cost. So these are fees for service, so they're trying to make development and growth pay for what the city's costs are in relative to what fee increases they're bringing forward. And Hillary's here to answer any of your specific questions there. In addition, we have the short-term rental civil penalty, and again, this would be for non-permitted short-term rentals. We have not issued any fees for violation of our short-term rental code yet. We really try and work with the customer and give them notice that, hey, maybe you don't realize there's a license out there you need to pull, and we give them an opportunity to come down and become legal. So this really would be a tool that would be used where somebody has just flat out refused to come in for licensure and has had several notices supplied to them. Okay, so as you can see in there, that Planning Department is talking about the fully loaded wage rate at a $75 per hour rate, so that's what their fees are based on. Streets and Engineering has had interesting requests over the last few years to park some of those pods on the street when people are moving. And right now, the code doesn't even allow anything to be parked on street that's not attached to a vehicle. So this is a mechanism that would give us the ability to help some of those apartments or smaller type developments that need to have extra space to move in and out, maybe for construction. They did build in there something for historic landmarks and being able to waive that fee for that purpose. So they have created a structure based on square footage and a price per square foot so that we have that ability to manage the parking on street and have some revenue coming in from that.
Should I wait to the end?
Yeah, because that'll be Chris Bosley, I believe, to answer more about that. Okay, and then the Water Department, again, a lot of their fees were less than 5%, but we wanted to keep up with those. They do have some staff time that's associated with these fill stations, and so they needed to bring up those costs for what they're actually experiencing in staff time at a rate of $47 per hour. And then they had several that were at the 2.5%, rounded up to the nearest dollar for meter rates, cap fees, fire line cap fees, and based on their costs for pumping, maintenance, and labor, and transportation and fuel, so. All right, that is the overarching presentation on fees, and I stand for questions as well as those experts behind me.
Questions?
But I'll let Kiki, I'm always trying to go first.
I just have a few. Was there any review of the commercial launch fees or commercial seasonal rate for launch at the 3rd Street ramp?
That'd be a good question for Mr. Tymason.
Or Mr. Greenwood.
There you
Bill?
go. Oh, Greenwood.
I think he was snoozing and didn't hear the question.
So I couldn't hear you, the question.
Yeah, I'm just curious as to, I didn't see it in here, if there was any consideration giving to the commercial launch fees at 3rd Street or the enforcement penalty fees for commercial launches at 3rd Street. I think since we got the new docks out there, we thought everything's going to move over there, but.
It's gotten better, but we are still, Diamond's still managing that for us, and they pay a fee to do commercial launching.
And so was that fee reviewed for an increase this year?
I think we're at 500, I believe, right now. So we hadn't considered that one, no. And what I've been told, to answer your other question, is that the launching there by commercial operators has lessened some. But you're right in what we talked about before. The entrepreneurs will find a void and fill that. So we'll see what the future holds for us.
Well, if it's not too late, I'd sure like to see that reviewed as soon as possible. I know I've watched that a number of times, and there's new names all the time, and there's new conversation that you don't even have to get a permit because there's no enforcement down here. And I think that that's really something that's kind of a little leak we need to fill.
I wouldn't say there's no enforcement. It's difficult. What they'll do is come in the morning, because Diamond does a pretty good job. I get reports from what they're dealing with, and so we try to give them some guidance. So they're doing what they can, but people will start earlier in the morning, and we don't have anyone there. We talked before about even a harbor master, but it wouldn't pay for itself. We'd have to have somebody there all the time, and it worked better when we had the booth. So it's on the honor system now, and they have been able to catch some people that were doing commercial launching that said that they had paid a fee, and turned out they hadn't, so they were required to go pay for the fee. So there is some, I guess, some advances in that, but it's still not the best.
Okay, I'm just thinking it's a miss to not have a penalty there, because that's kind of the word on the street, is you can launch until you get caught, and then you pay your fee, and so they're not. So I just think that one was a miss as we're talking about these fee structures, so. And then my other question was for streets on the street pod thing. In that fee structure, by the size and whatever, is there a limit? I mean, is part of it, you can't leave it there for a month? It can be there for, does the permit require a time frame for that?
Yeah, it's actually broken down by time frame, and it covers more than just pods. We included like dumpsters and especially construction sites. And the reason why we wanted to increase these fees was to motivate people to get their job done and get off the street quickly, so that they're not encumbering parking spaces, road right-of-way, sidewalks, things like that. So we'll have better control of it, because people will be encouraged to finish the job and get out of there, because it's costing them money. Same with pods and dumpsters. The longer they sit there, the more they're going to have to pay. So we don't have a maximum time period that they can be there, but they're going to pay for it to sit there.
And so then, when Streets issues that permit, is it code enforcement that follows up on those permits if those items in the public right-of-way aren't removed, or is it Streets?
I believe code enforcement would, but our inspectors are also out there day-to-day looking around, and so they would let us know also.
Okay. Okay, thanks. And then my other one was on this might be a Randy question. I've heard on short-term rentals that the city should charge a huge fee for short-term rentals that are operating illegally, but for clarity, there's some sort of parameters on what you can put as far as a violation fee? Is that true?
No, a violation fee is not, it's not a fee, it's a violation. So
Right.
it doesn't fall under the 631311A provision. It's entirely separate. We keep it under, we bring it forward at this time just so that we can track it, but there is no limitation on an increase in the violation if you decide to increase the violation.
So right now it's proposed to be at $1,000 for operating without a permit,
Correct.
but what you're saying is there isn't a statute that would prohibit us from increasing that. It doesn't have to be tracked to what the actual time for enforcing the permit is.
Correct.
Okay.
Not yet.
Not yet, okay.
Amy?
I want to just clarify Kiki's first question on the inappropriate commercial launch use around 3rd Street. And Bill, in my understanding, we do have a penalty of $500. And what Kiki was referring to is that it wasn't
Enough.
considered for an increase at the time. But I just want to be clear that we do have a current penalty.
Well, it's not a penalty. It's
The permit fee.
It's a permit
Oh,
fee.
permit fee. Thank you.
Yes,
That's what I'm
yes,
missing. Thank
yes.
you.
Okay.
So that, yeah, and so that was kind of my point, is that they
Got
just
it.
don't get the permit fee, because if they get caught, the worst that happens is they go get the permit. So,
Thank you for clarifying. I got confused on that one.
Christie?
I would point out that if there is no penalty in the code for violation, then it defaults to a misdemeanor.
are we talking the launch or the short-term rental?
Well, either.
Both. Right, okay.
Christie?
Thank you. Bill?
So glad you're
Yeah.
here today.
You know, council gets the most feedback day to day about parking and fees for parking. I see modest increases that you've proposed. I think they're reasonable. A couple of them are new. I think maybe I'm just seeing it in red. Has there always been a monthly parking pass for, I guess, the museum? Is that
Yes, so
always?
that doesn't really, the parking doesn't fall under my area,
Why
but
am I asking? I know why I wanted to ask you about parking.
That's okay.
Because I want you to talk about how we're funding our parks off the revenue.
correct. We get a percentage of the revenue off the parking lots because the association close to the park. So the parks are one of the reasons that the people come to town. And so therefore, it started with McEwen Park way back when that was a land and water conservation thing because the area was so large, the old footprint of the parking lot was huge. And so it was in that zone, so we were able to get a percentage of the action, so to speak, off the parking fees.
And not only that, it also goes to the Parks Capital Improvement Fund. So when we need to build.
And that's where it goes, that's correct.
Yeah.
And so we're able to do things with that, like last year, we replaced the restroom over at Persons Field. So those were those revenues, we go put that right back into the park.
So in my mind, these are user fees because we are a tourist town. People come from miles around to visit our beautiful parks. So I don't know if anybody's here to object, but I think these are modest increases, and I appreciate whoever brought these forward. It wasn't Bill, but whoever brought these forward.
Councilmember Wood, if I may interrupt.
Yeah.
Just to give whole dollar amounts, since I have the financial plan right here, the Public Parking Fund and Enterprise Fund, which is a fee for service, puts $210,000 on an annual basis to the parks for maintenance and equipment. You have approved $200,000 from the Public Parking Fund to go to Parks Capital Improvements, as Mr. Greenwood just stated, just to give you the whole dollar amount that's in your financial plan that comes right out of the revenue.
Thank you for that. And we know that our parks are always expanding, so That's great. Renata, you wanted to add?
Yes, and if I can clarify, on those monthly parking passes, we didn't clarify that they were applicable to all lots. So that's why we added them in to specifically clarify which lots they were allowable in. We had
Okay.
that same fee for McEwen, but we didn't clarify it was available at other parking lots.
Thank you for that. And then if I could just ask a couple questions under the planning.
Yep.
There seems to be a whole lot of really new fees. And I'm not objecting, I'm just curious. We all talk a lot about growth should pay for itself, and this clearly shows that growth is paying for itself. My question is, are some of these, did you research other cities to see if this is the norm? Because there are so many new proposals here on just any kind of consultation someone has with planning. There seems to be a fee for that. So if you could
Sure.
just speak to that.
Happy to, yes, and good evening, council members. We did look at other communities, and also it was for consistency within our own fee structure. So we'd have an extension fee for, say, a special use permit approval, but not for design review. So just trying to get consistency, so that's why that one was added. The parking agreements one, that is a new one, and that was more just, we've had a couple come forward recently. We don't have that frequently, but it does require a lot of staff time. So just looking at that kind of consistent with preparing an annexation agreement or something like that. What were the other, some of them weren't even new fees per se, but I think just because we reordered them, it looks like a new fee.
Oh, okay.
The pre-annexation meeting, that is a new one, but again, that's consistent with other communities. And we've started requiring those meetings, and then we realized the amount of staff time that's required, that there should be a fee associated with that.
Okay, thank you. And so they're not all, just because they're in green, they're not all new?
Correct, yes.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
You got it?
Yep.
Danny boy.
Well, just on the, one thing, I think overall, it's a good package, reasonable. And then specifically on the pods, I'm glad to hear of that because I had input on that, and especially, I mean, downtown where, I mean, places that don't have a driveway and stuff, and it's only on-street parking, and for moving, I hadn't really thought of the construction project. I would think some of them could put it on their yard or something, but anyway, for the pod, to be able to, put it there for moving, or people, get it there and then they gotta move out, so that's good. Before, I guess it wasn't even kind of recognized as a legitimate option, so now it is, and they pay appropriately for the privilege, temporary privilege to do that, so I'm glad to see that in there.
Oh, I have some.
All
Just
right,
a few quickies. So food, because I'm in the food business. So you have a food court license. That's in the courts that are established with sewer, water, and all that, right?
Yes.
What about the little food trucks that just pop into a business and hang out there for a week or so? Does that fall into the mobile vendor?
Yes, so we have a mobile vendor license, and so it's just dependent on the amount of time and location, and if they actually come in and get a permit.
Okay. I noticed that Lowe's and Runge's have weekend things. Now, weekends, there's not much code enforcement. Is there anybody noticing things like that?
I haven't received any complaints.
Oh, complaints. Okay, that's right.
So it's hard to identify if I'm not down there every
I
weekend
get
or
it.
other people, so it all depends, Woody.
No problem. Does the Jewett House get any money? Did you raise any rates at Jewett House? I don't think I saw anything. The use of it and stuff,
We're
is
not,
it
we're
not
not
that
proposing
way?
any increases, but the revenues we're getting out of there are pretty good. Adam Rouse has done an excellent job. Last year, I think he was about at $50,000 in revenue for just weddings.
Right.
Yeah.
Good. Thank you. And then my last one is, I think I talked to you a little about this. So we can't do a resort tax because we're too big. And yet we're impacted by the tourists and we love them. But they pay the same amount that I pay in the parking lot. And it just seems like another few bucks an hour isn't going to chase them away, I don't think. And maybe it's not the appropriate time, but maybe down the line, that seems like a simple one that the locals, it would be nice for the locals to be free and the tourists pay $3, so it covers it. But it would be interesting to look at those dollars at some point. And I think it's a whole technical thing to be able to do it, but I think down the road, it really needs to be looked at as to take advantage of those folks coming in, spending money. And I don't think the parking's going to keep them away if it's another $1 or $2.
And that's something Troy can take to the Parking Commission for discussion, right, Troy?
Thank you. That's all I got. So, look for a motion or more discussion? Oh, it's a public hearing.
Yeah, sorry.
I'm sorry.
Close it now, okay.
I was starting to doze
We
off.
restarted it
Oops.
already.
I
All
forgot
right.
the last slide here, sorry. Yeah, the last slide is to accept public comment.
All right. So anybody would like to address this? I don't have anybody signed up, but you're more than welcome to give us your 2 cents. 3 cents? A nickel, come on. All right, I'm going to close the public hearing.
Good, good.
And look for a motion.
Mr. Mayor Pro Tem, I would like to make a motion, and I will read the entire list if I need to do that. But I first want to tell you, I'm going to ask to add to the motion launch fees at penalty for launching without a permit fee, and address the 10% parade fee that was presented, and add that to the motion. So I'll read the whole motion and add my recommendations, so hang on. Approving city fee increases for the following departments: administration, parking penalties and parking mortgage fees, finance, garbage rates and street lighting fees, municipal services, license permit fee and creation of a new fee for loudspeaker permits, an emergency locate fee for non-emergencies, Park and Recreation Department updated tennis court rentals and league fees, Planning Department development related fees and short-term rental civil penalties, streets and engineering encroachment permits with the establishment of civil penalties for violations, and Water Department water rates and fees, and adding a $1,000 violation fee to parks for launching into Lake Coeur d'Alene without a permit, and accepting the 10% increase on parades.
Just as a matter of clarification, it would not be a launch violation fee, it would be a penalty.
A penalty for launching without a permit.
I'll second your motion for discussion.
All right, so we're adding, you want to add $1,000 launching fee? No.
Nope, it's a violation.
Violation.
For launching without a permit.
Fine.
So one clarification, when you read that, you said launch fees. Do we want to add the word commercial into that?
I'm sorry, yes.
Okay. very good.
Commercial.
I don't want
appreciate
a
that,
fee
Bill.
going to the residents like that.
You were way ahead of the game there. That's what we're after.
Okay,
Mayor Pro Tem.
discussion, yes.
I support the violation fee. I like where we're going here. My question, though, is for Randy. Can we add, I thought we had very specific guidelines on when we were increasing fees.
Yes.
And how long we had to post.
Yes, but this is
and-
not a fee, this is a penalty.
It's a penalty.
That's what I'm getting, ah.
Perfect.
Okay.
That's why he said it's a penalty.
The statute only applies to increasing fees for services.
Okay, so, I'm kind of muddy clear on that now for the launch.
So we
And
can-
we're still kosher with the 10% for the parades.
Yes, I think that was
Okay.
advertised as well as an option.
The advertisement just said we would be discussing the fee, and then it had the fees actually posted to the webpage of what we would be discussing. But I
Okay.
think because we had the fee noticed in not a specific dollar amount, we should still be kosher with that.
Got it.
Yes.
Thank you. All right,
Yeah.
good.
Well, I could support the $1,000 item related to commercial launching, but I would agree with the idea that let's do 5% on the parade increase, see how it goes before we jump to 10%. You know, I couldn't support that right off, just as I think of, I mean, Coeur d'Alene, who we are, what we do, and all of that, and the parade stuff is just, I mean, that's just a big part of who we are and our heritage, and there's a lot of, you know, overflow benefits that we get, and that just seems like I mean, that's too big of a bite for me in the first year, so.
Discussion.
Wow, I don't want to be the swing vote here. Yeah, I'm pretty torn on that. The parades are expensive for the city. They're expensive to host. And usually it's law enforcement and fire, and parks, that it's really, really difficult for us to do. So if I could just, maybe Renata, if you could give me the dollar amount on what a 10% increase would be, how huge of an increase is it?
There was a slide there.
Yeah, I missed the slide.
Let me get down to the right.
It's also on page 10 of your staff report.
So currently, the fee is $750. At a 10% increase, it would raise that large event fee to $825. The medium events are $300. It would raise it to $330. And the low events are currently $150. It would raise it to $165.
Okay. Well, I think that's doable for most people hosting those kind of events, and so I would support the increase when we go to a vote, when you choose to call for a vote.
Any other discussion, comments? So we are going to do a roll call with violation in there and a 10% increase in the parades. Right, Joe? Got it? All right, look for a roll call.
Wood,
Yes.
Evans,
Yes.
Miller,
Aye.
McEvers,
Yes.
English.
No.
Okay, thank you, everyone. Need a motion to adjourn, and we're out of here.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Discussion, hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
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 Don't make us
Thank you,
stay.
everyone.
All right. You knew your stuff.